When Elara Morgan returns to her ancestral home to bury the past, she finds that the past isn't done with her. Elara Morgan never expected to return to Brackenfield, not after the years that had passed. The death of her mother, Abigail, had been the final reason to leave. The final reason to abandon the small town where she had once spent her childhood. But life had a way of drawing you back, especially when it involved the past. A past full of unanswered questions. Elara's mother had died quietly, or so they said, though the circumstances surrounding her passing never sat right with Elara. Her mother had been a healer, a woman with a gift for understanding the earth and the people around her. But there was something she had kept hidden, something she never spoke of. Elara knew it was tied to the old house, the one that had been in their family for generations. Now, Elara had returned to settle the estate, to clear the remnants of her mother's life. But something else tugged at her, an unsettling feeling she couldn't shake. The house loomed in the distance, its silhouette barely visible through the mist that rolled in every evening. A thick fog that seemed to consume everything it touched. Elara had always heard stories about the house, the tales of the silent watcher that watched over her family, a mysterious presence that no one dared acknowledge. Some said it was a ghost, others a spirit bound to the house by ancient magic. But Elara had never believed in such things. She had left that behind, seeking logic and reason, convinced the stories were nothing more than superstition. But as she stepped inside the house, the air was thick with something she couldn't explain. It wasn't just the musty scent of decay, or the weight of years spent abandoned. It was something else, a presence, invisible yet undeniable. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet, and the faint sound of something whispering in the distance made her skin crawl. She shook her head, trying to ignore it. "Just the wind," she whispered to herself, but even she wasn't convinced. The days passed in a haze of cleaning, organizing and sifting through old letters. Elara found her mother's journals, written in delicate, looping handwriting. As she flipped through the pages, she learned about her family's history, a history that began long before Elara was born, a history tied to the Watcher. It began with her great-great-grandfather, Elias Morgan, a man who had made a fateful decision that would haunt their bloodline for generations. Elias had been an ambitious man, a pioneer who sought to carve out his own future in the wild, untamed hills of Brackenfield. He had built the house, a grand structure that stood in stark contrast to the wilderness that surrounded it. But Elias had not built it alone. He had made a pact with something dark, something that had lived in the earth and the forest long before humans had settled there. The Watcher, as it was known, was not just a ghost or a spirit. It was an ancient force, an entity that existed between the worlds of the living and the dead. It was born from the suffering of those who had been wronged, a creature that sought to balance the scales of justice by offering protection or destruction to those it deemed worthy. Elias had called upon the Watcher, offering his family as a vessel for its power, believing it would protect them from the dangers of the wilderness. In exchange, the Watcher would demand something from the Morgans every generation, a toll that was paid in blood, fear and sacrifice. Her mother had known the truth of the pact. She had tried to break it, to sever the bond between their family and the Watcher. But the Watcher was not so easily dismissed. Abigail had fought the entity in secret, trying to protect Elara from the same fate. The Watcher had watched them, its gaze ever present, and it had waited. Elara's heart pounded in her chest as she read the final entry in her mother's journal. The Watcher is not gone. It waits. And now, it waits for you, Elara. You must choose. Either break the bond or become the next keeper of its power. The choice is yours, but you cannot escape its presence. It will find you, as it has found us all. Elara sat in the dimly lit study, the journal trembling in her hands. She had hoped that returning to Brackenfield would give her closure, that the questions she had carried for years would finally be answered. But now, the truth was more horrifying than she could have imagined. The house felt different now. Elara could no longer ignore the presence that lingered, an oppressive force that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The whispers, once soft and distant, had grown louder. At night, she would hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, walking down the hall just outside her door. She would open it, but there would be no one there. Nothing but the silence. One night, the whispers became urgent, calling her name, pulling her deeper into the house. It was as if the Watcher was speaking directly to her, urging her to uncover the truth, to face the past. She followed the voice through the long dark halls of the mansion until she reached the attic. There, hidden beneath old sheets and forgotten furniture, Elara discovered something she had never known existed: a large, ornate mirror. Its surface was cracked, covered in dust and cobwebs. As she wiped it clean, she saw her reflection, but it was distorted, as if the mirror itself was trying to show her something else, something beyond. Suddenly the air in the attic grew cold, and the light in the room flickered. Elara turned, and there, standing in the corner, was the Watcher. Its form was a shifting mass of shadows, its face hidden in darkness, but she could feel its eyes on her, cold and unyielding. "Elara," the voice whispered, a deep, resonant sound that echoed in her mind. "You have come at last. The time has come to fulfill your destiny." Elara's heart raced. She tried to speak, to demand answers, but the words caught in her throat. "You are bound to me now," the Watcher continued. "Your bloodline is mine. Your mother fought to free you, but she failed. Now you must make your choice. The cycle will continue, or it will end with you." Elara stood before the Watcher, the weight of her family's legacy pressing down on her. She had always believed in her own strength, in her ability to control her fate. But now, standing in front of this ancient entity, she understood just how small she was in the grand scheme of things. She thought of her mother, of the sacrifices Abigail had made to protect her. She thought of the love and the pain that had woven itself into their family's history. She thought of the Watcher, the thing that had waited patiently for generations. And she knew deep down that this was the moment where her life would change forever. The Watcher's voice echoed again, softer now. "You can choose to break the pact, Elara, but the cost will be high. I will be gone, but you will lose everything you have ever known. Your family's legacy will fade into nothing. Your name will be forgotten." Elara closed her eyes. The choice was hers. She could continue the cycle, give herself over to the Watcher, and become its keeper. Or she could fight back, break the pact, and free herself from the chains of her bloodline. With a final trembling breath, Elara made her choice. She turned her back on the Watcher, and in a voice filled with resolve she whispered, "I choose freedom." The house groaned, the very foundation trembling as the Watcher's power was severed. The air in the room shifted, and for the first time in years, Elara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The house stood silent, its secrets laid bare. Elara had broken the pact, freed herself from the Watcher's grasp, but the price had been steep. The house, the land, the legacy of the Morgans, everything was gone. The town of Brackenfield would forget her name, as the Watcher had foretold, but Elara was at peace. The Watcher, once a force of fear and darkness, was no more. She had chosen her own path, and though it had come at a great cost, she knew she had done what was right. And so, Elara Morgan disappeared into the hills, leaving behind only the echoes of a past long buried, and the silence that followed. If you made it this far, thank you. Like the video if it resonated with you. Drop a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you soon.